All right, so just advice on how to approach economics or managerial economics. So the module cannot be approached and be studied in isolation. So what that means is, yes, you can get away with it, by the way. You can get away with doing that, studying economics in isolation, right? Picking chapters and so on. You can get away with that, pass, and so on. But that's just a difficult approach. So what do I mean by you cannot approach this in isolation? We mean that you have to start from the ground going up, right? Building block by block, right? So that means you have to start chapter 1 and then study all the chapters that are prescribed in the order they gave you. You don't have to read the whole textbook, by the way. And in most cases, that is the job of your tutor or whoever that you'll be studying with, right? Their job is to show you the key information while not omitting things that you will need to understand. All right. And the reason for this is because of, if you skip certain parts of economics, you'll get a question that requires understanding and you skip that part, right? Because you only focused on question papers. Usually people will use question papers. All right. So keywords, they are very, very, very popular and used in economics. Words such as elasticity. If you don't know what elasticity is, then it's a challenge, right? Some people, they know how to calculate elasticity, by the way, but they still don't know what elasticity is, which can be challenging. All right. So that is why I'm saying this is one module that you do not want to approach in isolation by skipping and then going to this, then going back to that. You really have to build step by step, and you will see with the way this lesson will progress. You'll see we will do things block by block. All right. You will see we will approach this block by block. Sorry about that. All right. So the question is, what is economics that we're going to be looking at today? All right. So economics is the study of the behavior of human beings. You'll see it's in bold there, right? The study of behavior of human beings. The study of the behavior of human beings in producing, distributing, and consuming material goods and services in a world of scarce resources. So, by the way, the content that we are using today strictly comes from your textbook and your study guide, right? We do not use anything outside, because even your exams and your assignments will be set on those two. So you can still find these things in your textbook. The only difference is I just took the key and then I will be explaining and simplifying them for you. All right. So economics is the study of the behavior of human beings in producing, distributing, and consuming material goods and services in a world of scarce resources. So basically, we will be studying how you guys behave, right? When you buy Afrika Academiks lessons, right? We want to see how do you behave when they charge you 100 rands per lesson. Do you buy more lessons or do you buy less? All right. Because of there's scarce resources. So when we talk about scarce resources, we are referring to you having limited amount of money. Of course, if you had unlimited amount of money, you would just come to me and then buy thousands of lessons, right? Doesn't matter. Or you would just go buy a limitless amount of cars. Does not matter. But because the resources are scarce, your decision making now will be intentional. Right, your decision making will be intentional, and it will have a sense of plan behind. So economics will be studying that. All right. Now, but remember, here we have managerial economics. It's not just economics only; it's managerial economics. So it means it has some sort of management inside. So you won't be managing economics, but you will see that it will make sense. So what is management? Right, management is the discipline of organizing and allocating a firm's scarce resources to achieve its desired objectives. So once again, the term scarce resources comes up again. So you will realize that scarce resources is a huge focus of economics, because that's what economy is about, right? Scarce resources being utilized efficiently and effectively. So in terms of management, it's about organizing and allocating a firm's scarce resources. So a perfect example, a firm's scarce resources is employees. Okay, a firm cannot have a limited number of employees, and employees are resources of the company, so they are scarce. So you, as the manager, you have to organize the employees to say you'll be focusing on this, you'll be focusing on that, and then you'll also be allocating them in different roles, okay, to achieve the desired objective. Maybe the desired objective is to deliver service to the citizens, or maybe you want to increase the revenue of the business. That is management. So when you combine the two, you end up with managerial economics. All right, you end up with managerial economics. All right. So managerial economics is the use of economic analysis to make business decisions involving the best use of an organization's scarce resources. That is the combination of economics and management, right? You'll be using economics analysis to make business decisions. So remember, when you manage a business, you have to make those decisions of organizing and allocating. So now you'll be using the knowledge of economics as well, right? You'll be looking at the economy to say, oh, the economy is behaving this way, so I can take these employees and then do this and that, or I can take this capital and do this and that, because now you have knowledge of economies, right? You can see that economy is moving, is having a recession, or is booming, or something like that, so you can make the right decisions. That is managerial economics. Now, our approach in this lesson is to show the linkages of economics with other business functions, while maintaining a focus on the heart of managerial economics, which is the microeconomic theory of the behavior of consumers and firms in competitive markets. Now, these words, they can sound confusing, trust me, especially for the first time. They sound like, what is this macroeconomic? What is this competitive market? All right. This one of microeconomic, I will explain one day when I differentiate with macro, because there's micro, then there's macro. All right. So, but the approach of this lesson, by the way, is just to show the link between the economics and the business function, which is the management side. Now, when clearly understood and exemplified in actual business example, this lesson in theory provides managers with this, which is you in this case, with a basic framework for making key business decisions. You will see we will have a question later on whereby we have to make a key business decision, right? And then this statement here just said that after understanding this, when clearly understood, right, you'll be able to make the decision. So after understanding some of the theory we'll go through right now and doing a calculation later on, you'll then be able to make that key business decision, right, about the allocation of their firm's scarce resources. Now, in making these decisions, managers must essentially deal with the following questions listed in abridged form. Now, economics is very, very applicable in real life, and that's why we will be approaching it throughout this semester. We will be approaching it using examples that are more focused on things in real life. All right. So those questions that you'll have to deal with, remember, we said that after understanding this theory, you must be able to answer these questions, right? So the first question you should be able to answer is, what are the economic conditions in a particular market in which we are or could be competing? So you as the manager, right, who has done managerial economics, the first question you should answer in the company you're working at is, what are the economic conditions in a particular market in which we are or could be competing? Okay? Economic conditions, particular market, competing. Those are the keywords. Let me try to highlight them. All right, economic conditions, particular market, competing. So to be specific, when we speak about economic conditions, we are speaking about the market structure. So when you go into a certain industry, you want to know the market structure, right? Do you have a monopoly, or is the market competitive? There's many more that you will learn. I just try to simplify it right now because that's not the focus, right? But there's many more. For instance, the market of selling vegetables on the streets is very, very competitive, right? Just next your side, it's not even the distance is not even maybe 10 centimeters. There's someone selling the same things you're selling. You can see it in the streets. Someone selling the same vegetables you're selling, right? You can see it's competitive. So that is a market structure, all right? And then also the supply and demand conditions. So if you're selling vegetables in the streets, you also want to look at what are the supply conditions, what are the demand conditions, right? Do you have people demanding your goods? And how many people are demanding those goods? Those are the supply and demand conditions, right? Those are the questions you will have to answer. Then also the technology. Obviously, if you're selling vegetables on the streets, you don't need any technology. You just need a bunch of boxes to place them in a table and then have a nice setup. Then you're good to go. So you don't need technology there. But for farming these days, they use high tech, right, to ensure that they can produce better products at a fast rate, right? And also, what are the government regulations? Obviously, the government regulation is that people shouldn't be selling vegetables on the streets, but we know the reality. But these are the kind of questions as a manager who has done managerial economics, you should be able to answer, right? And you'll be able to answer this after doing due diligence and going through the module. Then the second question, which is a very important question, it says, should our firm be in this business? Okay, that's what you want to know. Should our firm be in this business? Do we have anyone that want to ask questions, guys? All right. So the next important question is, should our firm be in this business? This is a make or break question. This is advice even to you if you want to start a small business or anything big. You should know whether you should be there or not. If you don't know when you're getting there without having the answer, that could be a disaster, right? Very, very important question. You will see when we continue. Now, if so that you should be in that business, what price and output levels should we set to maximize our economic profit or minimize our losses in the short run? These are the questions we will be answering. We will be answering these questions using the demand and supply, the elasticity, and so on. Right? Number 4, how can we organize and invest our resources, the land, the labor, capital, managerial skills, in such a way that we maintain a competitive advantage over other firms in this market? And then also, lastly, it's what are the risks involved, right? One of the most popular risks is the political risk. You don't want to invest in a country whereby there's no political stability, because you start a company there, then next thing, people are burning it down because of politics. Okay, so I'm going to share a funny story with you. This is the story we're going to use to answer the questions that will follow. This story is not really true, but there's some element of truth in it, but not entirely true. All right, so this will teach us a lot about managerial economics. So, more than 10 years ago, Afrika was established, right? and it supplied textbooks to tertiary level students. That was 10 years ago. And then 3 years later, Afrika Academiks was established from Afrika. So it was like Afrika was a parent company, and then this was just below. So Afrika Academiks provided tutorial services to high school students for mathematics subjects, right? So this was based in a small township, and the competition was non-existent in the area. So the supply was non-existent while the demand was there, right? So there was a demand, but there was no supply. So me and my partner saw this as a no-brainer. We really entered the market immediately. There's nothing to think about there. But sometimes you have to do research before you enter. So you can see that this takes us to the question number 2, which is, should our firm be in this business? And the answer here was yes, right? Because of there was no one supplying, right? So we had to supply this. So we entered the market, right? Started tutoring high school students for mathematics. So the question answered here was, should our firm be in this business? And then the answer was yes. All right. Now, 2 years later, we thanked ourselves for going into the market. It was a profitable decision, but now we needed new opportunities to satisfy our desires for growth, and long-distance studies market was on the rise in South Africa. So the second question is, what are the goals of the firm? These are the questions you will come across in your assignment, in your exam, right? Understanding them right now will make it easier for you to answer this. So now, something to take note of is the economic theory of the firm assumes the principal objective of a firm is to maximize its profits. So each and every business out there, they want to maximize their profits and minimize the losses. That's all. All right. But there can be more to goals other than that. All right. And then such goals can be market share. Sometimes you want to have most of the market, even if your profits are small. Right, you can take small profits but be the big player. Sometimes you want to increase the revenue. We will see this one in elasticity, or the profit margin, or the customer satisfaction. Right. So in this case, Afrika Academiks just wanted to increase their revenue. That's why they went into the long distance. Catering to students of long distance. They just wanted to increase their revenue this time, right? Now, this obviously leads to demand and supply. So the question we had to ask ourselves was, is there demand for such services? And the answer is yes. That's why we have, I think, 5 people now, 12 people, no, 11 or 10, I'm not sure, right? So it proves that there is demand, right? So there must be a supply. And then the supply will be who? It will be Afrika Academiks, right? This guy over here. Okay. So now, after you do note that there is demand and supply, the next question would be, how much do I charge? Right? How do I price? How do I package? And how do I maintain the revenue? So that's where Afrika Academiks used elasticity to work on that strategy of how do we price, how do we package, and maintain the revenue. Now, calculating elasticity is one of the easiest concepts you'll come across in ECO500 or economics in general. I think I already have 2 videos or 1 video with the other economics, and the reason I love choosing it is because it's easy to introduce to new students. It's much better than introducing things that are more complex, right? And then it can give them hope that this is a module that you can understand. Not to say that when you see others, you'll get lost, but it's always best to introduce people with something that they can absorb easily. So this is one of the easiest. Trust me when I say it's one of the easiest. Meaning, if you do come across it during your assignment or your exam, you should definitely get all the marks, literally all the marks, because it's one of the easiest. All right, but it's always much better when you understand something and not just cram that this is how I calculate and you don't even know what it is, right? So this elasticity is going to help Afrika Academiks about the pricing, the packaging, and maintaining of the revenue of the business. So we are now going to discuss the question of how sensitive, right? How sensitive the change in quantity demanded is to change in price. So this might sound confusing. So let me just try to give you an example using a silly example, a relationship. All right. So you have a relationship, you have a man, and then you have a woman. Or you have a woman and a woman, or a man and a man, right? So let's use a man and a woman. So how does elasticity work? So elasticity wants to know how sensitive. All right, so elasticity wants to know, just a second. Okay, so elasticity wants to know how sensitive, right, is the change in a man. Right, how sensitive is the change in a man to the change in a woman? So what do I mean by that? Let's use moods, right? So we want to know if the man is happy, how will that affect the mood of a woman? Will she also be happy, or less happy, or just in the middle, right? That's what we want to know. So you find that when the man is happy, the woman is happier, right? And then when the man is less happy, then the woman will be just happy, not happier, just happy. I'm assuming happier is more than happy, right? So that is how elasticity work. It's going to tell us when there's a change somewhere, how will that change affect that other somewhere, all right, or the other variable. It could be the first variable and then the second variable, right? But in this case, it won't be a man, right? It will be a quantity demanded and then the price. So instead of a man and a woman, this time it will be quantity and then price. So the question is, when there's a change here, how will that affect the price here? How will the price change, right? Hence it says we are now going to discuss the question of how sensitive the change in quantity demanded is to a change in price, right? So we want to know if the price go up or go down, what will happen to the quantity of the goods or the services. And we're going to use Afrika Academics, right, as our example. I think when it's something that you relate to, it makes sense even much more better. So the measurement of this sensitivity in percentage terms is called price elasticity of demand. Okay, so you're going to see this a lot of times. You might even come across it during the exam. So if you do come across it, just remember the story that I did share with you guys of how you'll use price elasticity of demand. All right, so this elasticity is within a producer's control. There are other elasticities out there which are not in control of producer, such as income elasticity of demand, right, and cross price elasticity, I think, which we'll cover later. Right now we just want to introduce this concept and also show you how to approach this module. So what is this definition, the way the textbook would want it? Right, so the definition says that the price elasticity of demand is defined as a percentage change, right? Percentage change in quantity demanded, which is caused by a 1% change in price. All right, because there was a change in price, there will be a change in quantity demanded, right? And the price of elasticity is going to show us all of that. Now there are two methods used to calculate the price elasticity of demand. There's arc elasticity, there's point elasticity. The question will be very, very specific as to which one you should use. Okay, the question will tell you calculate the price elasticity of demand, use arc elasticity or use point elasticity. But with more experience and more practice, you'll be able to tell which method to use because of the information provided. The information of point elasticity cannot be enough for arc elasticity, and the information of arc elasticity cannot be used under point elasticity. All right. So with more experience and practice, you'll be able to tell. But as long as you're not confident yet, always stick to reading the question and then just follow the instructions. Okay, so what does the formula look like? Here's the arc elasticity. That's how it looks like, right? You have Q2 minus Q1 in brackets over Q2 plus Q1 close brackets, and then just divided by 2 there, and everything divided by, okay? Then you have P2 minus P1 over in brackets P2 plus P1 close brackets divided by 2. All right, so let me just explain the elements of this formula. So you have here Q2, we have Q1, P2, and then P1. Okay, so Q, remember, it represents quantity, right? Unless stated otherwise. But in most cases in economics, Q is quantity. So Q2 is a quantity, right? But we'll just say new one, right? So it's the new quantity. And then Q1 is also a quantity, but it is the old quantity. I'll explain what do I mean by new and old. Okay, so imagine right now Afrika Academiks was offering lessons, right? So when they were charging a certain amount of price, I cannot mention, people were demanding 10 lessons. Okay, and then now there's a change in price. We don't know if the price increased or decreased, but there was a change in price. So when there was a change in price, people now wanted only 8 lessons. Okay, so this was the initial price. This is the old quantity that we are referring to, so it would be our Q1, and then this is the current price, which would be the new, and then we would refer to this as Q2. Okay, so it just shows the change of the quantity demanded. All right, and then the same thing would apply here. We'll have price, and then this will be a new price, and then this will be price again, but the old price, right? So let's say Afrika Academiks, the last semester it was charging 70 rands per lesson, and now they are charging 90 rands per lesson. This would be the old, which is P1, and this would be the new, which is P2. Okay, hopefully it makes sense. Remember, if something does not make sense, you can always ask. All right, so the same understanding that we have here will apply even over here, but here you only have P1 and Q1. This is supposed to be 1 here. I don't know why I wrote 2. right? So supposed to be P1 and then Q1, and then here we have change in Q over change in P. I will explain this when we have a question, right? It will make sense, but I promise you, very straightforward. Okay. And this kind of calculation, by the way, I recommend using a casual calculator, the pink one or the blue one. It really becomes just easier for you when you use that calculator. And the reason is because what you write down with your pen during the exam or during the assignment is what will appear on your calculator. So you can be sure that what you are doing, what you are pressing on the calculator is right. You can be confident, right? But if you're using a manual calculator, then you have to convert things. You have to do parts of the calculation step by step and all of those things, right? So you can easily make a mistake and then lose marks, or you can just not be confident and then end up messing up the whole thing. So but when you're using a casual, then it becomes a bit easier for you. So these are the two formulas you're going to use. I'm not sure if they are given to you in the formula sheet, but if they are not, then you better start memorizing from now. Okay, so after calculating the price elasticity of demand, then what do we do with the results, or what do the results mean to us? Well, we can categorize the results, right? And then the results will give us a meaning. So the EP here is the price elasticity of demand, right? So usually when the price elasticity of demand is more than 1, so that means it could be 1.1 or 1.2 or 2 or 3 and so on. So this means it will fall under relative elasticity of demand, right? So it will be elastic. Okay, so this occurs when a 1% change in price causes a change in quantity demanded greater than 1%. So I will explain this, and if it does not make sense when you watch the video again and then you just listen to it many times, it will definitely sink in. Okay, let me try to use an example, right? So there's a price here which is 100 rands. So Afrika Academics is charging 100 rands per lesson. So if there's a 1% change, okay, so 1% change, 1% of 100 rands is 1 rand. So meaning if we increase the price by 1 rand, there will be a change in quantity that is greater than 1%. We don't know how much, but it will be more than 1%. Okay, it will be more than 1%. So let's say when the price was 100 rands, people were usually demanding only 10 lessons. But now when the price changes by 1% and it becomes 101, people only demand 7 lessons. So we can see that the difference between 10 and 7 is more than 1%. Okay, I cannot do the calculation now, but we definitely know that it's more than 1%. So that would mean that the elasticity of this product, whatever product it is, the lessons, is elastic, right? It's relative elasticity of it falls under the relative elasticity of demand category. Okay, so that's what it means in simple terms. Remember, I'm just trying to make it make sense for you. We haven't really dealt with the question, but when we deal with the question, you'll just realize that maybe some of this was not necessary. But believe me, guys, it is necessary because you have to understand this and not just cram. And then we have relative inelasticity of demand, right? That's when your price elasticity of demand is between 0 and 1. So what this means simply means between 0 and 1. So it could be anything between these two numbers. It could be 0.7 or 0.99, but it is not more than 1 or less than 0. Okay, So that means the demand is inelastic. So here the percentage change in price is more than the corresponding change in quantity. Okay, so this means we can change the price, let's say by 10%, and then the change in quantity will be only 1%. Okay, like I said, I won't do any calculations because I did not prepare them. But for example, let's say we were charging 100 rands. Okay, and then with 100 rands, people were demanding 10 lessons. And then we decide to change this by, let's say 50%. We change the price by 50%. We increase by 50%, so it becomes 150. You'll find that maybe the change in lessons will be less, right? It's just 9 lessons. So you can see that the change between 10 and 9, the percentage is definitely not more than 50%. Okay, so that means the elasticity of the price elasticity of demand in that case falls under the relative inelasticity of demand. Okay, and this information, by the way, will be used by any business out there when they make a decision. And then we also have unitary elasticity of demand. Usually, or all the time, not usually, the EP, or the price elasticity of demand, is equal to 1. So in this case, a 1% change in price results in a 1% change in quantity. So here the change is equal. So if the price changes by 1%, the quantity will also change by 1%. Okay, and I think the last one that we have is the perfect inelasticity, whereby the price elasticity of demand is 0. Under this condition, the quantity demanded remains the same regardless of price. And the perfect example of this is medication, and I think electricity, and then petrol. Okay, because let's say you stay at point A and then you work at point B, and then you have to drive there every single day. Now, if the price of petrol goes up, it does not matter. You will still buy the same amount of liters of a petrol to get to B. You won't buy less, because if you buy less, then you won't make it to work, right? So petrol definitely have a perfect inelastic demand. All right. Medication, debatable, we can debate, but I think if you have a chronic condition, then it does not matter. You have to buy in order to live, right? Electricity as well, I think so. Electricity also debatable, because maybe you can change things here and there in your budget, and then you buy less because it becomes more expensive, right? But I also wish Africa Academics services were inelastic, whereby I could just increase the prices by 200 and then nothing changes. But unfortunately, I think I fall under one of these three here. I'm not sure which one, but yeah. Okay, so we have a problem here that we are going to solve. All right, we have a problem here that we are going to solve, and then we are going to apply those formulas that we learned and the understanding that we learned. So the first problem here says Africa Academics Research Department collected data on prices and quantity demanded for every price level. So the purpose of this was to know the elasticity of the services they plan to provide. All right. So before going into the long distance tutoring market, they had to just do a little bit of research by asking people, right, to say, if we charged you this much, how many lessons would you demand? If we charged you this much, how many lessons would you demand, right? And then they just increased the prices, and then they used that to calculate the price elasticity of demand. So in this case, the first option was 150, and then people said we will demand 5 lessons. And the second option, if we decrease the price by 50 rands, then they say we will demand 10 lessons this time, right? Now, this is something that can also happen in real life. It does not have to be collected from a research, right? You can just do it whereby you increase or decrease the prices, then you see the quantity, then you use that to calculate the price elasticity of demand of your business. Okay, so the question says use the information above. This is the information to calculate price elasticity of demand for tutoring services for tertiary long distance learning students. Use arc elasticity method. Okay, so I don't know the arc elasticity method by heart, so I will check with you guys. But I can take my chances, but I don't want to. But I know it's Q2 minus da da da. So between these two formulas here, the arc elasticity is this one. Okay, so this is the formula that we are going to be using. So you'll come over here and you'll say Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 over 2. Then everything divided by P2 minus P1 over P2 plus P1 over 2. So we go back to our information. Remember, P2 is the new price, right? And then the new price obviously is the second one. Not obviously, I think this was not clear, so that's my mistake there. So this will be the new one, then this will be the old. Okay, so that means, so we're looking at price only. So that means P1 is 150, and then P2 is 100 rands. Okay, and then we now shift our focus to the quantity. So Q1 is 5 lessons, Q2 is 10 lessons. All right, so now that we have the information, we can take it and then apply it in our formula. All right, okay, how does this work? All right, so let's apply it over here. So I will also show the calculation on the screen in case it gives you problems, but if no one has any problems, then we'll all be good. So Q2 over there will have 10 minus Q1, which is 5, over 10 plus 5 divided by 2, and then P2 will be 100 rands minus P1, which is 150, and then P2 100 plus 150 divided by 2. Okay, so if you do have a calculator there, you can try to calculate. If you don't, or if you do have and you're struggling, you can just say so. I will show the calculator on the screen. If no one is struggling, then no need to say anything. Okay, I got minus 1.67. Okay, so do we have anyone that is struggling with the calculator, that maybe wants to see the calculator on the screen as to how do we approach this, or are we all okay and we should move forward?
Evening, sir. Can you please show it on the screen?
Okay, perfect. Okay, so just take note of this P1, P2, Q1, Q2, as the other one won't be showing. But anyways, even if you did not take it down, we'll still come back to it. So I'll show the calculation right now. So remember, this only applies to casual users. If you're using anything else different, unfortunately, I cannot address it right now because like I said, I recommend this one. So the other one we'll discuss in the inbox. So the first step is the fraction. You'll have a fraction there, like this, and then you'll go open bracket 10. Just the quantity, number of lessons, minus 5. Then you'll go below. Then you'll have 10 plus 5, close the bracket, divided by 2. Then you'll have divided by, open another fraction. Then we open a bracket. Then we have 100 minus 150, which are prices, P2 and P1. And then we go below. Then we have 100 plus 150, close bracket, divided by 2. Then you press equal sign. You will have this. Then you press your SD button, whereby you'll have your minus 1.6. This means 1.666, but on your calculator it will show 1.67. And then when you round it off, it will be 1.67. Let me just check. Yeah, when you round it off, it will be 1.67. It will depend on the instructions they give you about rounding off. If you have to round off to 2 decimal places or 1 decimal places or a whole number. In this case, let's just round off to 2 decimal places. It will be 1.67. So let me repeat one last time. So you'll start, you open your bracket over there. Then you'll have 10 minus 5. And you go below. Then you have 10 plus 5 divided by 2. And you do this, you divide, open another fraction, and you'll have 100. So you see, I pressed triple one, so it's easy to make a mistake, right? Hence sometimes you even have to just double check your calculation. So you go below, you'll have 100 plus 150, closed brackets, divided by 2. Just like that, you have minus 1.6. So any question, anyone that did not understand, are we all clear?
Sorry, sir. It's always the formula like that, or there is some other things that we have to know. And it's this arc formula, we only use it under elasticity arc.
Yes.
I don't know if the question is clear.
Yes, you are clear. The formula is always like this. It does not change. However, remember, usually when you have mathematical background, you can manipulate the formula, and sometimes even in the in the memorandums they do manipulate the formula, but in the textbook, which is what you should always stick to when you learn or when you study, unless your lecture deviate, but you should always take information from your prescribed textbook. The formula clearly is like this. For the arc elasticity, when you calculate the price elasticity using the arc elasticity, this is how. Okay, I do not want to discuss other elasticities for now to avoid confusion, right? Because the only focus right now is price, is price of elasticity, right? That's the one that we just want to focus on right now. But the formula is always like this. Nothing will be different, or nothing will change. I hope that is clear.
Yes, it is very clear. I also got 1.4, but I mean 1.6. I was using I was using a cell phone, but my process is very long. It's almost half of a page.
Yeah.
But luckily, I got the same answer.
Yeah, I know. Hence, I said earlier on that if you do it any other way, it's going to be long, and you really, really have to be careful and accurate with the calculation, because if you're tired or you're hungry and then you just make one mistake, then that's it for you. But I'm happy you're okay. So we can now go back and then continue. So you can see, guys, that this is fairly easy, honestly speaking. But there are going to be more complex calculations in ECO500, and the way the questions are asked will definitely be complex. You can see in the groups people saying the lecture was cruel and all of those things. So let's not let this session, or maybe the way I present this, make us think this will be easy. It will be a walk in the park. All right. So okay. So we have to also note which category this falls under, right? So just take, you write this answer as minus 1,67, but in your mind always remember it is just 1,67. There is no negative there, okay? In your mind. But when you write it down, you write it like that. So let's go back to the information of the categories to see where it falls under. So I'll just remind you here, it's 1,67. So let me remove all this other information. Okay, so this is definitely more than one. Okay, so it won't fall here. Because here is between 0 and 1. Here it's only equals to 1, and then here it's 0. So definitely not perfect inelastic or unitary elastic or inelastic. Is going to be elastic. Okay, it falls under relative elasticity of demand. It's elastic. Okay, and that is because it is more than one. All right, that is because it's more than one. So remember, just ignore the negative sign. So even when you see the memorandums, don't think there was a mistake. There is no mistake. You just ignore the sign. All right. So this falls under elastic demand. So what then does this mean, this elastic demand, if we use this information here? Remember, they said this occurs when a 1% change in price causes a change in quantity demanded greater than 1%. So this means if Africa Academics change the price by at least a 1%, there's going to be more than 1% change in quantity. Okay, that's what it means. All right, so do we have any question on problem 1 before we move to problem 2? All right, perfect. I did not expect any, honestly. So we are now on problem 2. So problem not much difference from problem 1, but we'll see the difference because there is a difference there. So Africa Academics Research Department collected data on prices and quantity demanded for every price level and formulated the demand function below. So the purpose of this was to know the elasticity of the service they plan to provide. So this is what we call a demand function. Okay, you will see this often, the word function. You will have a supply function. Now we only focus on demand function because we have limited time. So the demand function says QD is equal to 60 minus 0.5p. I am sure you have seen something like this before. Okay, so as always, Q simply means the quantity that is being demanded. This D here means demanded, quantity demanded, and then here we have P, obviously price of the product or the services. So I hope the information here is enough. Yes. So the question says calculate the point price elasticity of demand when Afrika Academics charges 100 rands per lesson. And then is demand elastic or inelastic? Okay. Use point elasticity method. So we're not going to use arc this time. We'll use point elasticity method. Okay. So just a reminder of the formula that we are going to use. I don't know it by heart, so I'll have to go back with you guys. Here is the formula, the point elasticity formula of change in quantity over change in price times price and then over quantity. Okay, let me write it over here just nearby. Okay, we have change in quantity over change in price times price over quantity. That is the formula, right? So what do we have so far? We have the price, we have the P, which is 100 rands. We don't have the quantity, right? But the other thing that we have that maybe you're not aware of, which I did say I'll explain later on, is this part here, the change in quantity over the change in price. If you still remember over here, I did say I will explain this part. Okay, so that's what we have, but maybe or definitely you're not aware of. You're not aware that that we have it. Okay, so if we do have it, where is it? I will highlight it as well using the same color. It's over here. It is this minus 0.5. So sometimes you will have, maybe, let's say in another example, you can have 150. No. You can have 150 minus 2p. So you will use minus 2p. Okay, that's how it works. Simple as that. So now we have the change in quantity. I'll just write over here. We have the change in quantity over change in price is equal to minus 0.5. The only thing left that we don't have is what? Oh, is the quantity. We don't have the quantity. Yes. Okay, so we must find quantity. How do we find quantity? Let me try to do something. Okay, let's bring this side. We'll be done in 5 minutes or so. Okay, so you can bring this side. You can have QD over here. Is equals to 60 minus 0.5 p. Okay, and then we did say that our price is 100 rands. Change in Q over change in P is equals to minus 0.5. Then we said we don't have the quantity, which we must calculate. So how do you go about calculating the quantity? Remember, the quantity is this, right? That's the one that we want. Even though it's written QD and this one is just Q, still the same thing. So you'll come over here, you'll say Q is equals to 60 minus 0.5, and then in place of P you will substitute price, which is 100 rands. This one does not need any fancy calculator, right? You can even do with your mind. So you'll have 60 minus 50 over here, right? So this 50 comes from 0.5 times 100. You will get 50. Okay, so 60 minus 50, you still don't need a fancy calculator, you'll easily get 10. So that means the quantity is 10. Okay, so we can substitute into the formula that says this is equals to change in Q over change in... Yes?
Please just repeat that calculation of QD.
Okay, so the function says QD is equals to 60 minus 0.5 P. The P, we know that it means price, right? So we take the price that is given to us. Remember, this price comes from here. It says calculate the point price elasticity of demand when Afrika Academics charges 100 rands per lesson. That's where the P comes from. And then the 0.5, we know where it came from. So
Okay.
you substitute the P over there, which is 100. So when you multiply the negative 0.5 and 100, you get 50. So 60 minus 50, you'll get 10. Is it clear now?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the formula then says times P over Q. Okay, so we will then just substitute. So I can't write below. I'm supposed to write below, but I'll just write on the right side. Okay, so that means remember the yellow part, which is this one over here, is this amount over here. Okay, I'll try to use different colors. And then this P over here is this 100 rands over here. And then this Q over here is this Q over here. So now it's time to substitute. So we're going to have negative 0.5 times the P, which is 100, over the Q, which is 10. So you'll do this calculation on your calculator. Say negative 0.5 times 100 over 10, and this will give us minus 5. This is a very huge number. Really, you will see this kind of a big number. Usually you'll get the 1 comma something, 2 comma something. 5 is very rare, but this for this question, the approach is totally correct and the answer is totally correct. So before we move to whether this is inelastic or elastic, do we have any question regarding the calculation of this? All right, perfect. So the answer is minus 5, but remember, in your mind you just ignore the negative sign. All right, so let's go back to our information to find out where it falls under. Obviously it's more than 1, it's a 5, so it definitely falls under the relative elasticity of demand. So it is elastic. Okay, it is elastic. So this is the end of our session, guys. A long end of our session. Do we have any questions regarding this or our lessons going forward, or maybe suggestions on doing something better for you in the future?
So when you said we must ignore the negative, do we have always to ignore the negative?
When you do the price elasticity of demand in your mind, yes.
In this elasticity.
Yeah, the price elasticity of demand.
Oh, okay, no.
Yeah. Anything
Thank
else?
you.
We will just discuss as we go forward. Like I said at the beginning, this is a module that you want to take step by step. So I don't know to say things that might leave you confused for now. Okay, guys. So if there's no other questions, our paid sessions will be starting very soon, and I did share the timetables in the groups. If you did not receive, you can always just WhatsApp, and then everything else will be shared there. So if there's definitely no question, then this is a good night from me. Thank you very much for joining, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Good night.
Thank you.